Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the League of Inches podcast. Look, weren't going to run this one live, but we decided to last minute. So who knows who's going to jump onto this one? If not, you'll be listening belatedly on the podcast or watching later on in your own convenience, which we do appreciate. But you've got myself and Jez along for the ride for this one. So the good thing is with this show, you do want to get involved. Make sure you do. You'll have plenty of say. Get in the comments. We'll feature it as we talk. It'll just be a massive review of round four. Some big games happened on the weekend, some close ones. Some players, some teams stood up, some that didn't. So me and Jez will run our eye across all the games that happened over the weekend. Our thoughts, both our teams obviously suffered some losses on the weekend. So mine's a little bit fresher than Jez's. So he's had a day or so to think about his. Mine is right there peaking. So hopefully we don't spend too much time on that last game, but I definitely have some things to say there. And hello, Brendan. We are welcoming you again. We are hoping you have some big things to say in this episode, backing up your Wednesday comments. So, Jez, let's get you straight involved. What were your thoughts on the weekend's games? We sort of had a bit of a chat off air. Felt like this was the first week, sort of, for mine anyway, where there was a little bit of a lull with some of these games where I actually just stood back and found myself sort of drifting away from one or two of the games where so far each week I've been really on the edge of my seat, really watching the games. So where are you at with the weekend's games?
Well, I agree with you there, but I think it could be the long weekend effect as well. So happy Easter, everyone. Hopefully you've had a lovely 4 days of family time or relaxing or getting on the beers, whatever it is that you get up to in your own time. Hopefully it was a really good one and you stayed safe and drove responsibly. Yeah, I agree. I think the games of footy that were on this weekend, there were a couple that were just on in the background. One that I just completely missed because of family time, of course. But I think we were just discussing off air, a couple of the teams, well, majority of the teams that won didn't seem like they were winning the game. So it was either down to errors or just pure luck. But it seemed like the victors at the end of the game didn't seem like the ones that deserved the win. But there was just a couple of things throughout this weekend that one really annoyed me. A lot of them involved the Newcastle Knights, and they're just shambles at the moment. But then some nice surprises as well. I think Benji Marshall, the media beat up, is going to be fantastic this week come the Tigers win against your guys just recently. But also there were some really nice effort plays all throughout the round. So I think every game kind of featured some really good individual plays. So we'll discuss them when we come up to those games.
We will as definitely be doing that. Quick one for you. Who was the player for yours that stood out this weekend in the games? Mine, it obviously is probably fresh in my mind, so it's a bit easier to say. But Lockie Galvin, I thought today was outstanding, and I'll go a little bit deeper into that. The fact he had the sin bin, he's 18 years old, guys. Let's not forget that. Um, he got that sin bin, and a lot of young players I've seen in the past, they sort of go in their shell after that. They just want to get through the game and basically just bury himself and run away. He did the opposite. He came back out, and I had this sneaky suspicion it's going to bite us on the arse being a Para fan, but I just had a feeling he's going to come out in that afterwards and just brain it, and that's exactly what he did. He sort of demanded the ball, said, "Give me the ball, I'll get us out of here." And I just thought his performance was sensational. You'll see in the post tomorrow that we did end up giving him our 3 points in our 3-2-1, but yeah, he's my player of the round, Jez.
Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, I just thought he was amazing for the Warriors and playing in that fullback role he was instrumental, and it was such a nice matchup between him and Ponga, and it just he came out the victor in terms of the battle of the fullback. So RTS, he was very impressive.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, Adam, I do agree. Stefano was huge today. He features in that 3-2-1 as well. So you'll be able to see our votes tomorrow. Let's get into the games. First one, geez, it feels like a lifetime ago. And to be honest, guys, I have been sick literally this whole long weekend. So my mind is a little bit blurred. Do have some notes, luckily. So I will keep going back to those. That's why you'll see me looking down. But my memory was a little bit fishy. Maybe that's why it struggled to keep some focus. But the Penrith Panthers 22 defeating the Roosters 16 in a scoreline that ended up flattering the Roosters, I thought, in this game, because Penrith Panthers were absolutely sensational. And I actually just ended up, and I think we said in the group, I just ended up applauding the Penrith Panthers. As much as it pains me as a Para fan and being sort of next door neighbours, I'm jealous of how good they are as a club and what they've set up. That next man up mentality after seeing my team struggle with their halfback out today. it's actually ridiculous how good they have things. It's just a massive machine that just continues to roll on no matter what. And don't forget, Liam Martin went out quite early in this game, and he did end up coming back, but they lost him for a huge amount of time in that game as well, which would have again ruffled some feathers in that lineup and really mixed some things around. So, Jez, what were your thoughts on this game? Because it was a while ago, it felt like a while ago, a few chocolate hangovers as well in there. But Penrith were just too classy.
Yeah, I think about 35 Easter eggs ago was this game. So just Penrith, like it's so frustrating to say, but it's so good at the same time. They are spectacular. The formula that they have going there, I'd love to just peek behind the doors and see what is actually going on, because it is that next man up mentality. It's much like the Melbourne Storm. It doesn't matter who's out, whoever steps up is going to be fantastic and slot right in. They just must train the absolute house down and just know their game inside out. And I thought Dylan Edwards was huge. He won that fullback battle as well, and he's making the argument to be one of the most rounded fullbacks. Like, I know he's probably not as flashy as your Pongas and your Walshes and your Roger Tuivasa-Sheks, but as an all-round fullback, he's right up there. He was spectacular. But Penrith, man, they're so good. And you're right, I don't think the scoreline, I don't think the Roosters actually deserve to score that many points. So well done.
Yeah, before we get on to, and we'll discuss the obstruction side of things a lot more in detail on the Wednesday show, guys. So be prepared for that one, because I know people like Adam Martin have a huge amount to say about that one. Jesse as well, who will be on the Wednesday show this week for a fill-in for Mika, who's off for the next 2 weeks. I believe.
But don't
he's
worry,
got
Michael will be in the comments. He will be in the comments with his thoughts on the obstruction rule.
100%. I just want a quick shout out a guy that I've been very critical of over the last few years, and probably critical of the Tigers for signing him, but he's maybe in my words a little bit on Thursday night's performance. I thought LOI was actually quite good as well. And not just quite good. I actually thought he was pretty much sensational. I know Schneider did a great job, but I thought Luai really stood up in this game, which he's been criticised for going missing whenever Cleary has been out in the past. But I thought this week he actually really stood up and made a big point about making sure he was the main guy in this team, and he really, really looked that way. Jez, what were your thoughts on Luai before we do quickly delve into that obstruction call?
Yeah, totally. I love dubbing him the backup singer, because that's what he's known as. And he stood up to the main microphone. The way that he was darting across, that was very light-footed. It was very unstructured, but it was very Luai. And he made it work for them. He created so much space. I think I can't remember what try it was, but he danced around the defensive line a couple of times, and which actually created that overlap that he could put the outside ball in. And I think Edwards ended up scoring. He put the kick in. It could have been that passage of play. But it came from his just off-the-cuff rugby league, and that's what you want from your 5'8". Like, he had a really good game, and it's about time that he stood up and proved that he can do it, because he's got a big pay packet coming towards him in the next couple of years.
And good luck to him. I wish I was getting that pay packet.
Absolutely.
Mate, you never know. One day us at League of Inches could be on something like that. You never know, waiting for those big sponsorship deals to come in. Look, Brendan has started off for us, so let's get into it. The JWH on Edwards, an obstruction to us. He's also said that being a ref himself, or used to ref, he has a different sort of opinion. So it'll be interesting. Please, Brendan, as we speak about it, put your opinion up, and I'll post it up as we speak and I'll read it out. But Jez, I'll let you tackle this one first. Do you think it was an obstruction first and foremost? And secondly, I guess, just how confused are you when it comes to this obstruction call at the moment?
Yeah, I still have no clear idea on how to call an obstruction. I'm still going after Parramatta really hard around diving and running escorts as well. So it's as clear as mud, as they like to say, and it comes down to what referee's in the middle or what referee's in the bunker. And I think it was Michael that said they should have the same referee in the bunker all for every game of the round. And I thought that's what they used to do, but I can't really remember that far. But it was not an obstruction. He was so far away from the play. And if you're telling me that he's going to get across there in time to make any sort of effort on that, you're dreaming. So I think it comes down to he was wearing a pink shirt. So Edwards was wearing a pink shirt, and that's kind of what happened there. And, I don't want to jump onto the theories of Penrith getting the rub of the green every single time, but it is getting slightly more obvious to a non-biased rugby league fan that the top teams are getting a bit more of bit of leniency when it comes to those calls.
The thing is, look, I'm as confused as everyone else is with this obstruction call at the moment. It's 2024. They've got all the technology and that, and I just feel like with this rule at the moment, they are overdoing it. They are overthinking it, and they are just making it so confusing. Oh, Mika's in the comments
There
now.
he
Welcome,
is.
Mika.
There he is. I was waiting
We'll
for him to
wait
jump
for you
in.
to jump in. It's just, it feels like, and look, I don't want to jump on that Penrith bandwagon. As I said, I've stood up and I applauded them after that game because of just how good their club is, and I have nothing but great things to say about their club and how they run their ship there. It's just tremendous, but it's hard to not say that because it's now like I feel like it's 3 weeks in a row where they've been they've what's the best way to say this without getting myself in too much trouble? They've received some very good calls go their way, some favorable calls that have really benefited them and impacted the decision of the game. And that's just something that doesn't happen week in, week out to other teams. Like the old days, it used to be hashtag penalty Broncos and things like that. But that was like a fun thing that it just sort of, there'd be a 10-meter line, they get a penalty when they're like fourth tackle into their set getting smashed and somehow a ref would find a penalty. But this stuff is really impacting them. This is considered like there's players not going to the bin that should be on the weekend. Like I feel like people talk about black and white with this rule, and it's going to be so hard to do with this obstructions rule the way that they've now basically made the rule and changed things because there is no black and white to it anymore. And that's the unfortunate thing with this rule. It kind of felt like this one was ruled black and white, and to be honest with you, it was never going to be a tackle. Like Edwards never have tackled Manu with this. It was a try every day of the week. Bloody Usain Bolt wouldn't have got there in time. Like that's how far away he was. And people, like I heard a couple of people say Ray Hargraves looked around and he knew where Edwards was and ran into him. Like I've watched this now about a million times, and right at the last second, he did like sort of turn. He must have heard his footsteps or something, and it was already way too late to pull out of that. So he had no idea where Edwards was. He was running through like they're being told to do, run through the line so you don't impact the front defense, which he's done. There's no way in my mind that was an obstruction. But then, as we said, going back to it, the Roosters should never have got that close on the scoreboard. But who knows? That could have changed the momentum of the game. The Roosters could have been much more into the contest than what they were. But yeah, I guess I'm that confused. It's not funny. We did say Wednesday will be a lot more on it, but you guys have had your say. Let's bring a few up.
Yeah, we need to pour a bit of cold water on Mika because we need him for Wednesday to fire off on the live show. But he's right; it does come down to the interpretation of the referee. But they need to be held more accountable, and that's what he's saying here in the comments as well. They need to be held more accountable. I don't think we have the referee pool to be dropping that many refs each week, but there's got to be some sort of, rather than just the NRL coming out and going, "Oh yeah, we got that wrong. Sorry." It happens every week. Like, just hold people a bit more accountable when it comes to making those calls.
And that's the thing with, as you said, with the bunker stuff, it needs to be the one person, I feel like, or maybe like a partnership, maybe two at most. And at the moment, the way they've got it is it's just referees sort of rotating. If they don't have to ref that day or something, they're in the bunker, and it's not working for mine because they're consistently getting decisions wrong. So why are they in the bunker then trying to decide on things?
Yeah. Didn't it used to be Luke Patton every game? Was that, or am I making that up? Was it the
He
general in there
He was one
at the start?
He was one of them. I think they had like a rotation of 3 or 4 at the time, and then they've completely gone away from it because I think, to be honest with you, I think Patton started to get quite abused by people with some of the decisions he was making because he sort of went away at the end there, but we don't want to say too much into that. Look, there's so much, Brendan. I like you. Look, bunker needs same people in box each week. Chris Butler, I believe, was the bunker ref. That being said, ex-players are not the answer as they have no clue of rules. You just need to see the commentators' comments to see that point. I do 100% agree with that. I don't think it should really be ex-players. They struggle enough to sort of talk about the game after they retire and to really dissect things. So I do agree there. Maybe retired referees. Maybe that's how they keep going. Maybe like someone like Bill Harrigan, for instance, who's been out of the game for some time. Maybe once he did retire, he could have gone into that role. Maybe he's past it now and doesn't even want to entertain that. But these sorts of players like Sean Hampstead and stuff, like you don't know, like all these guys who were referees, they're over having the kilometers in the legs. They want to just go back so they understand the rules and that. Maybe that's where it should go to. But who knows? I think at the moment we're getting way into this obstruction call. We're moving on.
Yeah,
The
we've got to
episode
move
will
on.
be
We've got
all
to
about
move on. This is a recap show.
yeah. Now, look, next game is South Sydney versus the Bulldogs, which has some talking points in itself, and it has to do around, I think, both teams. And we sort of spoke about it off air a little bit, Jez, and we basically just going to go over what we already spoke about behind the curtains and peel them open for you guys. But for mine, the South Sydney Rabbitohs are still very much a liability in a way. I don't think they're very committed football side at the moment. There's still some issues for that side. Now, look, they ran away 20-16 victories, victorious here against the Bulldogs, but I think Whiten had some really good moments. Cam Murray, honestly, I feel for that guy because I don't know how old he is at the moment. I'm guessing he's probably mid to late-ish 20s at the moment, maybe mid-20s. He could easily retire in the next 3 to 4 years. He's doing that much to his body. He's being brutalized at the moment. He's everywhere for that Bunnies team, and they need him. They need him to be doing that because without him, they lose this on Friday. The Dogs would have won this, and that's saying something for the Bulldogs is they're not getting it done. Now, I've heard a lot of people start to say the Dogs are looking better defensively. I agree. In their attack offensively, no, they're not. They're still going side to side. They're lost. They got too many players. They're not picking the right players in positions that they should be. Once again, Stephen Crichton was basically catching a cold, was hardly involved. He was signed as their best player, as the marquee guy, arguably probably in the top 5 players of the year last year by the time the season finished. And he's at a Bulldogs team that's crying out for that kind of a player. And he's touching the ball like he's probably lucky to touch the ball at the moment 6 to maybe 7 times in the game. I don't know where you're at with this game, Jez, but I feel like it's not just about the game, but it's about the fallout as well and how both teams are looking.
Yeah, it was both teams kind of lacked direction as well. Like I know that we've spoken about the halves pairing for the Rabbits, but the Bulldogs as well. Like they've still got people that are playing out of positions. They aren't picking the right blokes when it comes to the game day. And they're scoring their points, and this is what we're saying off air, they're scoring their points on individual efforts. And it's not through plans, it's not through coaching, it's not through structure. It's literally through a bit of heads up footy and a little bit of luck. But you've got to make their own luck as well. I think their defense is, I think it's starting to click a little bit. Like Reed's doing a really good job in the middle there. He's quite effective. And I think it was Connor Tracy also had quite a good game defensively. But then you look at the Rabbits, and if they didn't have Murray, if they didn't have Whiten play the game that they did, and even Kalonga-Matangi as well, they probably wouldn't have won that game. And it was much like a toss of the coin sort of result when it comes to these two teams battling it out. And yeah, it didn't feel like the Rabbits deserved that scoreline, if that makes sense as well. There's a lot going on there, and it was nice to see Whiten score a double, and I think he played very well in centre. But they still haven't figured anything out when it comes to their direction. And Cody Walker, though he does try his best, I think he might find his way over quite soon.
Shout out to Adam Martin. We're still thinking of you, even though you're not here at the moment with us. Nothing's happened to him. He's just not on the show, guys. So don't worry about that.
We did get a Burton bomb though, right at the end.
Yes.
We got a Burton bomb. So put that on your bingo card, and you would have got that one.
I want to ask you a quick question
89
about
minutes
South.
for it.
Yeah, pretty much. I want to ask you a quick question on South. Obviously, they dropped Ilias for Hawkins 2 weeks ago now. Have you actually noticed a difference in that? Because I feel like it's just the same player.
Yep. It's the same bloke. It just seems like they've punched another one out of the cookie cutter that they've got going on there at South. And it's just another one for Walker to kind of just run all over and, dictate the play. It's his team. It's him and Latrell that dictate what happens in that team. And until, I think Adam spoke about this on our live show, until they sort that out, they're going to find themselves on the wrong end of results quite soon.
Yeah, no, I do agree. That was a last one before we move on. Honestly, considering how many outside backs the Bulldogs have, Burton at 5'8" is a good idea. He just needs to get in the game more. I've had my say on this one a number of times in the past. I don't want to bore people too much with it. I personally don't think he's a 5'8". I think he could be easily one of the best centers in the game. But at the moment, the Dogs don't have the halves to be benefiting that. That's why I'm saying Crichton at center at the moment is wasted for the Dogs. He needs to be fullback. He needs to be one of their main guys in attack. And at the moment, he's not doing that. And it's really letting the Bulldogs down. But that's another story. That could be another talking point, as I said, for the Wednesday show. The Broncos versus the Cowboys. Broncos absolutely slaughtering the Cowboys, 38 points to 12. And I hate to say it, Cowboys fans, but I think you're absolute pretenders in 2024. I've got to be brutal here. But look, you all came at us when we didn't have you in the eights and stuff. And look, you might be a bottom of the eighth side, but if this is anything to go by, the Broncos were without Walsh. The Broncos were without Haas, and you still weren't able to put any dents into the Brisbane Broncos. I know Sailor was great. I know the Broncos forward pack really stood up. Carrigan was a beast. I thought Carrigan was really good. The difference was Reynolds. His kicking game was absolute masterclass stuff on Friday night. And if he was out, I reckon Cowboys would have won it. But he was literally this sort of difference, 26 points in the end. And I would say Reynolds had a huge hand in a lot of that 26-point difference with just how good he was. Jez, the Broncos playing like that is scary, but I think the talking point here is the Cowboys and just the first good, decent opposition they verse, they can't get anywhere near.
Yeah, well, as we spoke about, they only just beat the Knights at home. Like that came down to 1 point. And the Cowboys fans were going on like they've won the comp. Like you were coming up against a Newcastle Knights team that you couldn't put away in 80 minutes. You had to take it all the way into extra time. Scary for them coming up against a depleted Broncos team. You know, they've got some star powers out there. I think Drinkwater was good for them. And who's their forward? Cotter, Ruben Cotter. I thought he was good as well. But apart from that, they were a bit lackluster. And yes, the Dearden tackle was probably the most exciting thing that happened for the Cowboys. That I think we were all pretty excited when we saw that one. But it was a good win for the Broncos, and you're right, Adam Reynolds just controlled that game. That's what happens when you have a quality half and you have a forward pack that gets them the space that they can do that. So seeing them operate, and they've only got their star powers to come back in, I think that's going to be very exciting for Broncos fans and them as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, it's been a pretty special start to the year with some of the things we've seen. Obviously, the game in Vegas, the Xavier Coates put down try in the last play of the game for the Storm. That didn't run down tackle was right up there. Cobbo's no slouch. It did look like at times he was running on a treadmill, though. I don't know what happened there. He's sort of, as soon as he had the ball, I said to the missus, I go, shut the gates, goodbye. Shout out to Dan Ganane. He did the whole goodbye. I just thought, I thought it was shut the gate, but didn't. I've heard a lot of things. I've read a lot of things about him being named captain this year. Has really stood up in the off season and just around training. Been absolutely
just my dog. He's
insane.
Very loud. He's just coming in to say good day.
He does not like us bagging the Cowboys. He's a closet Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Dearden. I thought it was a sensational bit of play there. I thought that was the moment for me that really typified where the Cowboys were at the moment. That should have inspired them. They should have gone on with that then and really used that as motivation to pick themselves up. And it was like the opposite. None of the players got around him and sort of fed off that. And normally you see with the teams when they're fully around each other, those sorts of moments as a team you get around and you feed off that and you see them just go off on that. It's like a boost sort of in a way, but they didn't have that at all, the Cowboys. Next game, Saturday games.
Sorry, before you go on, that's where your momentum swings. Like, you're absolutely right. That's where you dig that little bit deeper. You find that extra 10% because you've just seen one of your blokes chase down a guy for 80, like for nearly 100 meters, tackle him right at the end. Like, that's inspiring. That's Scotty Sattler. That's what you win grand finals on, you know? You're right. But no one got around him. 100%. It was really disappointing.
100% agree with you there. And just a quick one before we... Reece Walsh, I've seen pictures today. He's in some specialised headgear. Honestly, if he plays this weekend, that is going to be ridiculous. We'll know more about that on the Wednesday show. I'll have something special lined up for that because if that happens, if he goes to that much dedication to play, you can take me now. I've seen it all. That is actually insane. But anyway, hopefully they can make Mitchell Moses
give him another week. Yeah, give him another week. You can't let the good looks get affected for our game.
Yeah, or Nozzy, you know what? Nozzy's on fire. Right before we move on to each one, he's just got something really to just lay down and put the full stop on. Cowboys' performance over the past year honestly hurts to watch. No excuses. Fantastic players, been playing well together before. Yeah, you know what? I could say the same thing about Parramatta at the moment, but we'll get to that. Um,
Soon.
yes, soon. The Dragons versus Manly. I'll tell you what the hell has happened to Manly? It's like Parramatta's beaten the pulp out of them in a way. They were flying high to start the year, started on fire the first 15 minutes last week against Parra, then just absolutely shat the bed. Did come back in the end to make it a contest, but they're just half the team that they started that game with. And then I was just waiting for him to hit the go button in this game. It just never happened. Turbo was trying, just continually made errors. It was very un-Turbo-esque. Like the good thing for Turbo at the moment is he does look like his body's there again, but it's like his skill has now left him in a way. In a way, it's because he has been without so much consistent football. He hasn't been able to keep that skill level there. So bit concerning. I'd still have him out. I've spoken to a few people, and a few Manly fans have actually said this to him. They usually want him to go spend a few games at centre and have Cooler back at fullback for a few games and just sort of let Turbo get back to his natural best without the pressure of having to always touch the football, because at the moment it doesn't seem like that's really helping his game and getting the best out of him. So interesting takes, and that's from Manly fans, not myself, but it's hard to disagree with. He is, I think, struggling a little bit. Not, as I said, not with his body, just the skill side of things. But for the Dragons, you talk about fullbacks, Sloan. Goodness me, their wins this year so far, he has been sensational in both of them. Ben Hunt as well. And if you're talking about not Ben, Ben Hunt, sorry. You talk about Ben Hunt, you talk about Adam Reynolds, his control, his kicking game, etc. Ben Hunt was the same for the Dragons. He was sensational, I thought. What about you, Jez? What about this game? And it's just one of those ones where I just wanted it to go up to that next level, but the Dragons just grinded away. So credit to them. They made Manly play their style of football, which is, to be honest, a bit boring, but they made it happen.
I didn't see it coming. I'll tell you that. And we were talking about this before as well. I think the Dragons are going to be one that's going to ruin many a multi this year, because they're very hot and cold. But if they could string this form together, then they could be at the pointy end of the season. I think it's probably more disappointing on a Sea Eagles point of view, after the form that they've had and the games that they've put together. It just seemed like they were riddled with errors, and they weren't really able to put a quality game together. I think the kicking game went away a little bit as well. Cherry Evans, I know that Brooks had a really quiet game, so he obviously didn't have the space or the time to be able to play his free-flowing 5'8" sort of rugby league. Turbo did try his heart out, but just, you're right. I think maybe for Turbo it might be a mental thing. Every kind of collision that he went into in this game, it seemed like he was wincing. So I don't know if he was carrying an injury or is expecting an injury. So there's a bit going on there, but credit to the Dragons. They played well. And you're right, Sloan he's going to be instrumental in a lot of their wins this year. And if it might come down to, much like the Knights take out Ponga, you win, take out Sloan, you might have a pretty good shot of shutting down the Dragons. But again, I liked being April 1st that the first Zero Tackle article that came up this morning was Ben Hunt signs with another club. And I like that that's still a running joke, even though all the stuff around Zach Lomax is happening as well. So, no, credit to the Dragons. They got the win.
Talking about Zach Lomax, and he must be the unhappiest happy person I've ever seen in my life. It's like at the moment he's trying to go out of his way whenever the camera's on him to look depressed, to look like he's not enjoying himself.
Yeah. You know how they have strapping on their wrist and they normally write messages and it's like normally I love you, mom, or whatever it is. His is don't smile. That's what he says. Don't smile. Just reminders for himself. But it was really funny on the Matty John show. It must have been Thursday night. Fletch is also in on the joke. He's like, I've got him down for Origin winger. That's how good he's playing. I'm going to put him down for Origin winger. So it's nice that everyone also is caught on that he's just not happy and he's trying really hard not to enjoy his rugby league.
Yeah.
Must suck being that good.
That Matty John show was hilarious, considering they did that interview with him probably a month ago or something now, and they sort of joked around about him being on the wing, and it actually has happened.
And there he is.
You just sort of back, just laughing my head off about it. Nozza, Dragons aren't the only ones that are hot and cold this year. Manly's had a bit of a strange win-loss record so far. Very, very true. Worried for them as the season goes on with Tom's injury history. Yeah, to be honest, I think they can probably cover Tom's loss better than they have been able to in the last few years. So I'm not as concerned if they do lose Tom. Obviously, a quality player, you do not wish that upon him, or you don't want him to go down once again. But just with the way he started, hasn't been his best start to the year. And as for the Sarkis, I don't really agree. Turbo is a little overrated. I don't know if he's overrated. I just think it's hard to expect these players to be the same as what they were with their absolute best form. It's sort of like, and Jez will know straight away, going when we talk about, say, Ponga, for instance, he was sensational for that 10-week run last year. He can't just hit the ground running like that again this year. It's impossible to expect these players when no one's doing it apart from maybe Cleary because he's an absolute freak. But even he started that first week, he was pretty quiet for his standard. It's just hard to constantly be at that 10 out of 10 best, which unfortunately, because a Turbo was that good that year, he got the Dally M. That's what we expect of him now. So it's really, really hard to have that sort of as a player. No, Brendan,
You
not bring back Schuster.
you watch Cleary still get Dally M points from being out because he's that good and he's in that good a form that he's still going to earn Dally M points by sitting out and nursing this injury. I think a shout out needs to go to, I'm going to butcher his name, Ola Kaka.
Olakawatu.
Yes, I thought he was really good in a defeated side, like 205 meters. I think it was like over 100 meters post contact. I think he was the only one that was really trying to bend the line back. So shout out to him.
Just one thing that does my head in with him is they don't use him properly, I feel like, because he's so good. He's so damaging, but it's like he'll have this massive game and be 10 out of 10 player for him. But then the next 2 or 3 weeks, they sort of, for some reason, go away from him on purpose. They're like, oh, no, we don't want to overdo that. Give him the ball. Just let him beast mode it. As you said, he'll make meters at will. At the line on a halfback or a 5'8", he's just a terror. You'd look up and
Yeah.
go, holy shit. Like,
Yeah,
I
no
don't want to
chance.
be going
You're
that.
running away.
So,
Yeah.
quickly, Sarkis will answer yours on the run. Penrith Panthers going to get a 4th premiership this year. Honestly, at the moment, I've got him head and shoulders above the rest at the moment still. That is the scary prospect that we're looking at. Next game, the Titans versus the Dolphins. Sorry, Titans fans. I know you were a little bit hurt with the post that went up as well. That was just literally asking a question, guys. It wasn't my opinion. I don't think the Gold Coast Titans should be out of the comp, so don't keep coming at me with all that sort of stuff. It's just asking a question because apparently, like, that's my job on this page, is to ask rugby league related questions that actually encourage talking points. So that's what I've got to do, and that was one of them. So I don't think the Titans need to be kicked out of the comp, but what I will say is the way they've started, they've actually really ticked Des off already. Yeah, the way he sort of went in that post game, in that he was dressing down Tana Boyd, he was dressing down a few of the other players. Oh, you could see in Tanner's face, he sort of just like, can I get out of here now? I don't want to be in front of
A couple
everyone.
of them doing
this
as well, like, oh, just the spit that must have been in their face. Got an absolute rinse down.
Oh, and there was a couple that were still like looking at the ground, and I said to the missus, I go, they don't want to be doing that because Des will see that before their next video session. The fact that some of the players weren't looking at him when he was doing this, and trust me, they'll cop another barrel from him, because one thing Des does demand in his dressing rooms is the respect. And most of the players were looking at it, like even Foz, who's the most experienced one of the group. You could see he was like, he had eyeballs attached, going, we've got to cop this. There were still some players there, like Aaron Clark, for instance. He just was at the ground, and that won't wash for the Gold Coast Titans. For the Dolphins, though, sensational. Once again, they started so slow, and I was thinking, is this going to be one of those Dolphins this year where they're just so up and down each week? But credit to them, they started average and they were able to turn it around. And Katoa, young Katoa in the halves, I thought it's been absolutely sensational. Just to be able to be that young, I think he's 19 this year. And to be able to play the way he's playing and to control that side, I think he's really stood up this year. I think he was sort of unlucky last year trying to steer around a brand new team, brand new competition for his level as well. He's really been able to take this new team and just go to that extra level with his game this year, which I really like. And there's no rush on him. Like, I feel like Bennett's perfect coach for him. Just letting him go in waves. But the Hammer, seriously, guy is a freak. He has been so good after his round one shocker, to say it politely. He's been so good since.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, they're coming first at the moment, so they're our ladder leaders. The Redcliffe Dolphins, or no, they don't have a name. It's just the Dolphins. Wherever they're from, we can claim them. They might be the Newcastle Dolphins. But I remember when we were talking about after their round one and how like poor they were. We had lots of question marks around some of their key players, but then they come out and they do this. Let's just see how consistent they're going to be, because if they keep this going, again, they're going to have a really nice run of form soon, and the hammer just keeps hitting his straps. I think when it comes to the Titans, I said it in our preview of the season show that it's going to take at least a year for Desi's stuff to kind of kick in, and it's showing it now. Like they're so poor at the moment. Their defensive reads are poor. Their attack is a bit lackluster and directionless. Directionless? They have no direction, is what I'm trying to say. But a shout out to Philip Sammy, 229 meters, 70 post contact meters, and 0 errors. I think Jaden Campbell tried his freckle off as well, but the Dolphins were just too good. Jermaine Asako, 5 from 5. I love it when they kick their conversions and when teams help out their conversion kickers. And I think Herbie Farmworth has slotted in so nicely into that team and just kind of brings that winning mentality that the Dolphins needed as well. I don't know how vocal he is on the field or how vocal he is at training, but you can tell that he is bringing that experience with him as well.
Yep, no, I agree. And especially, as we're doing a special shout out to, I think, David Fafita. When he did come on, he was doing a lot of the hard stuff. He was doing a lot of the hard yards and really trying to get his teammates to follow him. And just they weren't, or they couldn't, whatever one it was. But credit to him, because I know last year as well, there was a lot of criticism about him earlier than that last year, but he kept trying to do the hard yards, and he's changed his game around a bit to do those tough carries and stuff. And I really liked what I've seen from Fafita. Obviously, he'll start from next week, and just see what sort of impact he does. Tino is a huge loss for the Titans. He's the heart and soul of that team. But if Fafita can sort of carry a little bit of that weight, then who knows? I don't know. At the moment, unfortunately, I've got to predict him as my wooden spooners. I don't know when their first win's going to come, because they look so far off the pace at the moment. Like any other team, like we talk about the Tigers, we talk about the Dragons, even the Bulldogs, they've all looked like they've improved quite a bit. The Titans just look like, if anything, they've gone backwards, and they've just lost their captain. They're arguably their best player. You just sort of scratch your head and think, where's this win coming from? How are they going to get this win?
Yeah, it's going to be a long season for our friends up there on the Gold Coast. And also, Nozza, you need to stop making sense, because otherwise we'll have to get you on the show. Loving these comments.
Yeah, I'm bringing up a few of these comments now. Comments are going off, guys, so I really appreciate it. We might have to keep this a live episode. Everyone's keen to talk footy straight after. But yeah, BKR Sports, I know he wasn't happy with my post and hasn't spoken to me yet about that. But look, as I said, I wasn't having a go at them. I wasn't having a go at him. He's the most passionate Gold Coast Titans fan I think anyone knows. And it was just a talking point. Like, they're coming off a horrible round of results. There's all the Queensland teams are like, Dolphins are doing well. The Broncos are going from strength to strength, looking really good. Like, there's question marks. There's teams that want to come into the competition, and you've got to say, not just for the NRL, but for the AFL, for any sport, really. A-League tried it up here as well. It just, for some reason, doesn't work. And you just sometimes got to call a spade a spade. It might hurt people. It might piss people off. It's not my intention. I love going to the Titans games. I've openly said it's one of the best grounds to go watch football at. I'd hate if they were to move here ever. I don't want it to happen. But you got to post the questions. So sorry if I did offend someone, as I said. Boyd, yeah, he looked like he was going to cry. I don't know. I felt for him. Des didn't rip a door down. He's still got a few levels to go. I tell you what. I thought the whiteboard was going to go. I thought, Andrew, I'll get to Parramatta. Do we need a coach like Des? We need a coach like the name Wayne Bennett, but that will be another show. Anyway, Nozza, is Des Hasler overrated? Titans' defense hasn't improved and their attack has died completely. Media call him a super coach, but to me, he just seems like a home brand Ricky Stewart. Well, now that's a bit of a, you don't want to be known as the home brand Ricky Stewart, because a lot of people know on this page, we don't really have a massive rap on Ricky Stewart, but he's doing quite well. Do you want to take this one, Jez?
I don't know if he's overrated. I just don't think his style is going to fit up there on the Gold Coast. I think Desi is a very old school sort of coach, where the Titans are not a very old school sort of team. And so, I don't think overrated. I just think in the wrong setting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that one. I just feel like this is a much bigger job than he anticipated. On paper, they've got some really good young talent in that team and that squad. It's just going to be when can it all sort of come together and work, because there's some forwards in that roster that I think are way over the hill and are probably working off their last few pay packets. Nos is on fire. Don't think we should be surprised by the Dolphins' performance. They seemed to only drop off last year because of all the injuries. They have crazy depth now. Yep, I do agree. Their depth does seem a lot better this year, and that was always going to be the case. And if anything, it's going to get stronger over the next few years, which is pretty scary. David Feeder rushed, well, maybe, but he actually didn't show any signs of that injury when he did come on. So I guess he wasn't in that aspect of things because he didn't show any signs of that injury. They got the Cows this week, so they'll win that. So it's Josh.
Put up, yeah. Put up Mika's comment as well.
Put Josh up because here we go. Ricky Stewart is a no frills Franklin's coach himself. Absolute hack.
Shout out to the home brands out there.
Oh, goodness me.
Come on, let's go. Anyway, let's talk about it.
Warriors versus the Newcastle Knights. Jez, I'm just going to hand you the baton because I know you do have a few things. So off you go.
First off, we all love the Waratahs. We all love the Warriors, so let's just get that out of the way. Up the Wars. We like what they do. We like how they operate. However, us Newcastle Knights fans, and I don't know how, somehow the fan pages are in my Facebook feed. Whoever's in those groups and are posting things about gamble, you're delusional, and you're obviously watching highlights of another game because it wasn't the one that I was watching. They were absolute passengers. We didn't have a 6 or 7 out there that whole game. Now, when you look at the first half, the Warriors were kicking into a really strong headwind, yet we were starting our sets off our 30 and off our 20. Reverse that, when it's our turn to kick into the wind, the Warriors were starting their sets on halfway. How the hell do you defend that when you can't even get into the opposition half? Their defense, their line speed was spectacular. Our middles were poor. We cannot start both Safidi brothers next to each other. I think one of them only made 17 runs for about 56 meters. So what's happening there? We are so lucky that we have Ponga and Frizzell. Every week they try in and out, and that is the only reason that we are scoring points. It's on the back end of individual brilliance. It has nothing to do with structure. It has nothing to do with guidance or coaching. It is individuals that are scoring us points. And I'm getting to the end of my tether when it comes to this. We dropped the wrong half. We said that from the start. You're right, Andrew. If we don't have those guys, we don't win. But we have to give credit to the quality of Tuivasa-Sheck, the quality of Sean Johnson. Capewell was awesome as well. And then you've got Mitch Barnett in there running holes through people as well. So the Warriors just looked really good. Yes, I liked Hastings sleeping on the hill after he had a big win in his game. He thought, job done. Righto, let's watch these guys get a pizzling. But I don't know. I'm so frustrated when it comes to the Newcastle Knights, and we are just lucky that we have a few effort players, because if we didn't have those guys, Bradman Best was good as well, and Ari Tuolara was good. I know that we were missing a couple of players, but geez, there's got to be a few more questions asked around our structure and our choices when it comes to players on the field. Sorry. Hope that made any sort of sense, because I'm so annoyed at it.
No, look, I agree with you. I did say, I think in the chat, I did mention it in the pad and pen post as well, was gamble for mine. I didn't even realize this was on the field until I think late on he jumped on a loose ball or something, and I was like, there's
he did that one good kick that led to a try. God.
I just think
I could have put that grubber
sometimes fans, and I don't want to be disrespectful because we're all fans, and this page is run by fans for the fans. That's what I've always wanted the page to be about, and it's getting bigger and bigger. I love the fact that everyone wants to come and have their say, but sometimes you got to be not so in your lane when it comes to the judgments. Like I'll use Parramatta, for instance. There's a lot of fans out there that think Mike Acevo is the best winger in the friggin' world. He's so far away from that, it's not funny. Just because he scores those tries does not mean anything. He's actually one of the worst wingers you'll ever see play rugby league, but he scores a couple of big tries because of his big body, and he has to run 2 meters over the line, and people go, he's so good, he's a bad blah, blah, blah. No, he's not. Like, you've got to just look at things, and gamble is not answer at 5'8". He's not going to guide your team to a grand final win. He's not going to get your team to a grand final. I said to you, the good thing for mine about Cogger is that since he's been there, I think Ponga's actually had 2 of his best games this year. So he has, in a weird way, he's been good because it's been able to free up Ponga to play his sort of more natural game and his dangerous game. So
he's slowed it down. So what Cogger's done is he's slowed down our attack, which has given us a lot more room for Ponga to do Ponga things. So you're right there. Cogger is doing that job. However, our kicking game, like we cannot be starting sets or giving the opposition sets in our own half. And it happened consistently. And we can't blame the wind because Sean Johnson was putting in kicks that were landing on our 20. I think Ponga ended up going into 5'8" and started to do our end of set kicks and was landing them on the 20 meter there. Like, oh man.
And the thing is,
you got blinders off. When it comes to your team, take your blinders off for a second. I know, like, we want to be positive, and Mika, I'm surprised he's not in the comments here having a go at me because I called him out for being negative. I am trying to put a positive spin on this, but there's got to be a time where you ask these questions and ask them genuinely. You can't just sit there and go, oh, yeah, we'll be right next week. Don't worry, we've still got Ponga. He's awesome. Come on.
I'm telling you now, you don't want to lose too many games early on because it can really, really stuff your season, and you don't want to be chasing too many wins. Go through a few of the comments before we try and move on from this, because I know for a fact we'll probably go back to the Knights on the Wednesday show. Adam Martin will not want to let this go, and there'll be an Adam versus Jez for sure moment. Any thoughts on the Newcastle hooker rotation? Brayley's still on very limited minutes. Could he be one of the several missing pieces? I don't mind this question. I was going to ask you a similar one. I thought he looked pretty good when he did come on, Brayley. So I think it's getting to that stage where he will start in that number 9.
His service from dummy half is far better than Phoenix Crosland's. So to be able to get your ball to land on the chest of your halfback as they're running through, it makes such a big difference. So you're right. Yep, I think that's going to be a nice little addition when he extends his minutes.
Yeah. Shane, just on this one. Now, off air once again, me and Jez had a chat about this. I anticipate Gamble to be dropped. Hastings will come in and get first crack, and then I anticipate him to only last a couple more weeks playing that 5'8" role. It's just not his natural role. He won't do well at it. Then it'll be Will Price's turn. He's the one that I think Newcastle are watching very closely, killing it in reserve grade, killed it in the trials. I think he really deserves a shot, and he will have his shot in the next probably 6 weeks, I predict. Will it be too late by then? Who knows? I hope not, for Jez and the Newcastle Knights' sake, and he can start stringing some wins together, because I think him with Kai Pearce-Paul, with Ponga, with Best, those sorts of combinations could be really, really damaging in the weeks to come. Andrew,
there was something about Dom Young. Sorry. Oh yeah, there you go.
Here we go.
That's the one.
Now, do you think Dom is a big loss for the side? His meters and put downs.
Absolutely. So he was, when we did our predictions for the season, I had him down as a massive loss. He was huge. He was instrumental in our 10 in a row as well. There's my first mention of it. But his meters out of our end were huge. He would do 3 or 4 runs a set. We were missing Marju and Gagai, who has also been playing quite well the last couple of games. So we were stuck in our own half. So we were missing those meter eaters when it comes to getting out of our own half. But absolutely, Dom Young is a massive loss for the Newcastle Knights.
Yeah, I agree. Slayer, I do agree this, and so did Jez. RTS, very exciting in that one jersey. I don't know what they're going to do now. CNK is back, I think, this week, and there's a lot of headaches there. The way that RTS played that, you'd have to just say to Chance, look, start in the centres for us and just see what happens, because I don't think you can actually drop Roger after that.
Got to keep him there.
Where it happened here. Some people are getting on the Sevo comment. Well, look, we'll get back to Parramatta shortly, guys. So I didn't think that would start.
A lot of chat around Lockie Miller. A lot of chat around Lockie Miller for the Newcastle Knights. We spoke about this as well when we did our gains and losses. No, I wouldn't have Miller over Gamble. I'm sorry. No, I wouldn't.
He's already gone anyway, so it's not even a possibility. He's gone to Super League already. Here we go. Now let's go on to. I think that's all. Is that all you wanted to say on so far on the Knights, Jez?
That's it. Time. That's it. Leave me there. Yep, leave me there.
Good. 6 points to 22. all look, honestly, even though it was a high scoring game, I found this probably the most boring game of the round. It just sort of didn't get me at all. How the Sharks scored 36 points, actually, we'll never know. They did not seem good in attack at all for most of the night. And then how the Raiders lost that after looking like after 18, I think they were 16 or 18 nil early on. I was sitting back because I tipped the Raiders and I just went, how good's this? How good's tipping? And then they just turned into a completely different team. I thought, what the hell has happened here? So anyway, I don't know what's happened there. Oh, hang on. This caused me to get better Wi-Fi. Is it not good, guys? Sorry.
Yeah, you're going a bit choppy changey, but that's okay. I was the same. I tipped the Raiders, and I was sitting there quite smugly going, "Look at this, told you so." But then the Sharks just somehow scored points. Like I'm assuming the presser was a really, really good one with Ricky Stewart blowing up and saying that no one deserved any credit, and probably rightly so. How do you blow a lead like that? Honestly, I know Michael wants to talk about the grounds on a Wednesday night, but watching a
Yes.
game at Shark Park is so boring. Like it's so hard to watch on telly. Hopefully, the atmosphere is really good live. But when you're watching it just seems so industrial. Seems like people are like just jammed into random spots. Like it just doesn't look like a good ground to watch rugby league at. Plus, you're right, it was just a bit of a game. But I often
Look,
feel like
I'll
that when
do a
it's the
little.
Raiders playing.
They are, and the Shark is at the moment. I just find the Shark is
Yeah.
hard to watch.
Nico Hines though,
I'll do my
all
little
the daily
tease.
endpoints.
Oh, again, preview for tomorrow, guys. He did not get our three. I don't even think he got any of our twos, but anyway. Just a quick preview before our Wednesday show and my thoughts on this stadium thing that I know will be a massive talking point. And there's all this talk about Leichhardt. We saw Shark Park yesterday as well. I think the game's gotten much bigger than what a lot of us rugby league fans are used to. We all have suburban grounds as our sort of, oh yeah, but it's the heartland of rugby league. It's what we grew up watching, blah blah blah. But then at the same time, all these fans are obsessed with American sports now, who only ever play their games in front of all these massive stadiums and these massive crowds, etc. We can't have it both ways anymore. We've got to choose one or the other. We've got these amazing facilities around. We've got Combank. I went there last weekend and I was just in awe of Combank. I know I'm a Para fan, but just the facility as a whole and how close you are to the action, how nice everything is. Like that's what rugby is going to be about moving forward. We've got that. We've got Allianz as well now. That looks like state of the art facilities. We've got to start using these facilities a lot more, in my opinion. We can't be going out to like a Shark Park where it's a construction site. How does that sell our product to anyone? How is anyone, if we're talking about selling it to America, how is anyone over there watching the game going, I want to be watching that. I want to be in that game. Like, seriously, you can't be. It does not sell our game. Like, that is not us anymore, guys. We've got to move on from that sort of mind frame if we are to grow this game into anything moving forward.
Totally agree. Get out of the construction sites.
And even like the facilities there, I'm sorry to say, guys, yeah, there's some big nostalgia there. It's the hill and everything, but the facilities, I'm sorry to say, and everyone secretly knows it's dog shit. It is not a good ground at all. We've got to start moving on. But last one, today's game, the West Tigers too good for the Parramatta Eels, 17 points to 16. Said at the start of the show, Lockie Galvin absolutely tore the Parramatta Eels a new one. Star has been born, guys. I'll declare him now. I think this kid is one of the brightest prospects in the game. I can't wait to see him over the next few years continue to grow. I thought Appy Coruscant was absolutely huge as well. His control of that game was just instrumental. Now, look, I've always sort of, for some reason, never really like, not that I haven't rated him, but I just have never been so high on him as some others have been in the past. But after watching him so far this year with this young West Tigers team, I've seen just how good he actually is. And I'm seeing what people is talking about when it comes to he must be selected for the Blues and things like that. Like he's a really, really good quality player. The Eels, there is a lot that I can say, but I'll go to Jez first just to get his thoughts on this game, so I can I can get my thoughts back, and then I can
Gather your
unleash because
thoughts.
I've
Yeah.
got a few things.
As a rugby league supporter, I thought this was quite a good game to watch. It was exciting. It was back and forth. There was some really good battles happening in the middle. I think Appy Coruscant proved that he deserves to be on the money that he is, and he is a sought after player. Um, I I thought the refereeing was a little towards Parramatta, just as a non-biased sort of watching but that sort of evened out towards the end. And we spoke a little bit off air around how penalty counts sort of get evened out. There was one question that I posed to you as well. There was, I think it was 4 infringements on their own line that the Tigers gave away, and no one was put into the sin bin. So I thought that was an interesting take on what was a really intense sort of passage of play towards the back end of that game as well. I didn't see what led to the penalty attempt at goal that Gutho ended up missing, but was it offside? I'm not too sure. From what I saw, it looked like it was a clear knock on against Parramatta, but it ended up being a penalty anyway. But good game from a non-biased sort of watching. However, I think like you've got a little bit to say when it comes to your Parramatta Eels, and I do have one thing though, because I don't like him, but he was all effort. So Gutho tried everything in his power to win this game for Parramatta, as he does every single week. I still don't like him. I don't really have a reason why I don't like him, but I just don't. But Parramatta really missed Mitchell Moses, and it was so clear. He is such a good player, and you guys are so lucky to have him, but you need to sort this out because he's not going to be there for a while. You need to be in a better position for when he does come back. But credit to the Tigers. Well done.
Just putting my notepad down so I can just tee off here. And
righto, go for it. I'm muting myself and I'm ready to listen. Let's go.
Honestly, it's just, as a Para fan, this performance today hurt. Like, it actually hurt today watching it, because I saw some players who, and I'm going to name someone like Sivo, who Brad Arthur, no matter what, he will name him every time he can at least run. And the thing is, he doesn't run. He names him no matter what. He should have come through reserve grade today. There is no way at all, in my opinion, he's earned the right to just walk back into this team. He did nothing. Now, there's people that will say, oh, he was injured towards the back end of the game. Okay, what about the first 60 minutes? Like, he was not doing anything. He was blowing after literally 5 minutes of that first half. That is not someone who's ready to play first grade rugby league for a team that has such a proud. We're wearing a jersey today that's supposed to have a proud history, and we will go on to the jersey another time. But again, I'm not a huge fan of it and what it actually means to Parramatta fans. It's the year that we choked and should have won a grand final, yet the club thinks it's a good time to celebrate that. But anyway, less said about the club, the better. The thing that does my head in is Brad Arthur looks so set in his ways with certain things that it actually cripples us so much. This whole, when we're on the line trying to attack, and I say that loosely because there was no online attack today, it's constantly forwards trying to hit up with this hospital sort of style pass from Lussick, which, yep, okay, it worked once in the first round. It hasn't worked again since, pretty much. Like, teams are onto it. They know it's going to come and happen, and they continue to do it. Like, it happened time and time and time again today, and it was doing my absolute head in to watch. Like, we're supposed to be a top 4 team. We should be a top 4 team no matter what. But the way we're playing, like Mitchell Moses, to anyone out there, and I know Para fans, there's still some out there who criticize him being on the money he's on. Now, I don't even think he's actually on even $1 million at the moment. Like, I actually think he's on unders for what he could get elsewhere. I would honestly, after today, I would put him on one. He's worth to Parramatta 1.2, 1.3. Like, that's how important he is to our side. We looked so lost without one player. And we talked earlier about Penrith. They were without their best forward, their best playmaker, and lost probably their second best or third best player for most of the game on the weekend in Liam Martin. We lose one player and we just shit the bed. There's players out there like Sean Lane, for instance. People will say, oh, his super coach points were good today. He doesn't make an effort. He doesn't look like he wants to be there. He doesn't look like he has any pride in the jersey. See, neither does Sivo. Morgan Harper, we all bagged him out and bagged out the signing. Honestly, I don't know what we're doing there. We've got youngsters that probably, if Richard Penasini wasn't ACL and wasn't out for the year, he'd be in there, no questions asked. My last one on this, and look, I'll have more of a say tomorrow night on the Talk and Para podcast, which will be back. Make sure you follow that page to get all our thoughts tomorrow. Sorry, I've got 2. Sorry. In the halves, Blaze, I feel for Blaze tonight. He is not a 5'8" when he's partnered with Dylan Brown. Both of them players are 5'8". Neither of them are halfbacks. Dylan Brown is one of the best 5'8" in the game. He's not a halfback. He should never be in the halfback jersey. and we just looked so lost. Ethan Sanders should have been there. He should have been named there, and that was it. Secondly, we were completely disrespectful to the West Tigers today. They have improved so much as a football side. We'll try and scrum plays with Junior Paulo, and he was throwing cutout passes to a winger. Like, seriously, boys, pull your heads in, show some respect, do the hard yards before you can go and do the glitzy glamour stuff. Like, that's actually just, I was embarrassed when that happened. We deserved to lose from that moment on. And lastly, as you said, Jez, like Gutho for mine, there's people out there, and a special shout out to Adam Martin, who he's one of these guys, and it does my head in every time he says it, who still doesn't rate Gutho, who still thinks Gutho overplays his hand. He does this and does that. If we had 16 other Guthersons on the field today, we would have won that game by 40 because he was actually putting his heart and soul into every single thing on the field. Some things didn't come off, granted, but at least he was there trying, wanted to be there, and was trying each and every play. There was a lot of players out there today that weren't doing that. So as hard as it is to sort of see Gutho and probably say he's not a Ponga, he's not a bloody, look, to be honest, I'd rather Gutho than Latrell at the moment. That's saying something. But he's not like a Ponga, he's not an Edwards, he's not a Tedesco, but he's Gutho. He's a different breed, and I do like him as our captain, as our fullback. But anyway, that's me, Jez. So I've sort of had a little bit to get off the chest, and
love it. I'll come back off mute. I've just been reading the comments as you've been going on as well, and there's some really good conversations in there. Yeah, there's a couple of good ones. You're right about, I don't know why Junior Paulo was playing any sort of ball playing role, but didn't he throw that one into like row 4? That was bizarre what happened there. I don't understand what's happening. The direction was just completely gone, and you'd like to think that though Dylan Brown wasn't playing in his role, he still should be able to have some sort of control or some sort of direction. And you'd like to think that Gutho would be able to help out there as well, especially in attack, but it just seems so disjointed. And it just, you're right, you disrespected the Tigers, where I think most teams might do that though, because it is the Tigers. They've been a basket case. They are turning things around, but you don't know what day you're going to get them on. So yeah, I think a little bit more respect towards the West Tigers might go a long way.
Yep, I'm just reading through some of these comments, but as you said, like, you need to respect the Tigers. Like, I'm really enjoying their brand of football this year, and that Lockie Galvin has just injected this lease of life on that team, which is so nice to see, because I think deep down, a lot of us have a soft spot for the West Tigers. I think because they've been so poor now for so long, we kind of, in a way, rugby league's doing well when they're doing well, and it's been so long now. I actually want them to be a decent team. I actually want them to be a team that each week you go, oh, do I tip the Tigers this week? Do I back them in for this win? Where the last, 3-4 years, maybe 5 years, it's just automatically you've tipped the other teams. So I don't mind it. Just quickly, we'll read through the last few comments, then we'll go. I was going to
say, you've got to put Josh's comment up because this is great, but keep going. Yep.
Is it just me, or does Brad Arthur, the coach that seems to fly under the radar the most? Guys like Stewart are media darlings, but still cop criticism. Never hear people who aren't para fans mention BA. Yeah, I think he goes under the radar. Personally, I would be moving on this year. I've said that in the past. I was about
to say, you've got to tune into this podcast more. We go on about BA all the time.
I would be knocking on the door of the master coach, Wayne Bennett, and because, to be honest, if Para don't win the comp next year or two, they will go back into a rebuilding phase. I don't understand why Sevo runs full ball for Fiji but jogs around for Para. Well, there's a thing called heart, and clearly his heart's not in it for Parramatta.
That's called the Darius Boyd factor. So Darius Boyd would run full pelt for Queensland, but then you put a Newcastle jersey on him and he wouldn't even take a hit up from fullback. So the Darius Boyd effect.
I'm just Nozzer again. Yeah, he actually did play hands a little bit today, which I was surprised about. I think he ended up getting like a 20-minute stint, which I almost fell off my chair when I seen.
Yeah, the chat did go off when he came in.
Yeah, to be fair, I rarely tip a team who loses a half. Most teams, you take their half out and they look lost. I was so close to tipping the Tigers because of this. Yeah, but look, Penrith did it. Penrith did it. And this is a thing that does my head in, is that they're supposed to be the little brothers. They're now the big brothers by a long way. Missing Cardi 100%. Oh, God, Harper, send him back to Manly. I'll pay him to go back to Manly, please.
Signing of the
Cartwright
year.
was a big out. Cara was a massive out. I think he's been probably our best. Josh, here we go. Junior Parlo was back to his old shit thinking he's a 7. You're a prop, run it. Why did we start him when coming off the bench was working? We need Saunders next week, not been playing well in cup, but we're so lost getting around the park and no fifth tackle option. Sevo is the biggest cat, won the penalty count, field position, 10 in the
10
bin,
in the
and we
bin.
still lose. Putrid, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Well, thanks for having us for your TED Talk, Josh. We really appreciate everything you say, and I agree with everything that you're saying. Look, the cup side, it's hard to judge Sanders off that because the cup side is so rubbish this year, and depth again is a huge issue. I'd the same, but I'll be putting him in no matter what. Guys, there's still so many comments. I might get off and have a look at this, but we've got to let Jeds get to bed. The school teacher
Got
needs
school
to get up
tomorrow.
early in the morning. So
That's right.
we'll leave that there. Thank you, guys. As I said, keep your comments and that come in. Message the page if you have any other things to say. I'll get back to you. But that's it. We will probably keep this as a live show moving forward. It looks like it seems to work. Everyone wants to talk football while it's fresh in their brain. But Jez, thanks for joining. We did go over a little bit, but there was a lot to talk about.
No, there was from such a, as we said at the start, a bit of a lackluster sort of round, and I think we put that down to the long weekend vibes. I think we've covered most of the talking points, and on Wednesday we'll probably go over a few of the suspensions and stuff that came because there was a few hip drops that we could have mentioned that have received some bans. So we'll cover that at a later date. But no, good catch up. Hopefully you had a lovely long weekend, and everyone else in the comments had a good long weekend and ate plenty of chocolate. I will do one thing though. Please like and subscribe because it goes such a long way. And if you can, leave a review, whether it be 5 stars, 5 stars is the best, but leave a comment in the reviews as well. The best way for podcasts and things like this to get around is word of mouth. So talk to your friends about it. Talk to your mates. Share us. If you know anybody that likes a little bit of rugby league or a lot of rugby league, tell them to check out League of Inches and join the many. As you can see down the bottom, we've got our YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, all of those wonderful things that are down there. Join and subscribe because we are on the verge of really, really big things happening. We've got a couple of live shows. I think we've actually got a pub that we're looking at booking out for the Newcastle Parramatta game. So there's going to be so many things coming from this page. And Joel, I'm taking it off you because you do it every single night. I'm going to do it for you. Like and subscribe because this bloke, where are you? That side. This bloke does all the work behind the scenes. None of us, we just join in for these videos and have a little chat. So please, if you can, do the rounds, share it with your mates. Let's get some ad revenue on here so we can just up the production and keep the stuff coming out because it's all for love at the moment and Joel's doing it all. So shout out to Joel. Well done, mate.
Thanks, mate. Geez, you make me a bit emotional there, but that was I really appreciate that. But yeah, I second that, guys. It does go a long way. So wherever you can, even follow, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. It goes a long way. It's all free as well, which is the best thing. Not asking for any money. Everything you do for us to support us is completely free. So that's it. See us again on Wednesday night. I will have a Super Coach show with Jesse tomorrow night, which will go up first thing Wednesday morning for all you Super Coaches. I know you all love that. But good night. Enjoy, and we will talk to you on Wednesday. If you do have any topics, we want to get you more and more involved, send them through to the page that we can talk about on Wednesday night. That is always welcome, and we'll always feature your opinions and thoughts. Good night, Jez. Really appreciate your kind words as well, mate.
See you, mate.